Aura, a special album with Miles in the 80s going to Denmark to record a suite that Pelle Mikkelborg wrote for him and a big band. And Miles took his nephew, Vince Wilburn Jr., and also John McLaughlin, and maybe somebody else as well from his, from his group to participate in this project. And you can hear Miles play very loosely over these great big band sounds, and it's a very cool album, one of the later Columbia albums, and it's produced by Pelle Mikkelborg, and this is really stands out from his albums, I think. The Carnegie Hall concert, this I wish would have a better sound quality. Oftentimes it's a bit distorted when Miles plays really closely to the mic, but this gives a nice glimpse and serves for me as a great comparison to a lot of the studio recordings that Miles did with Gil Evans. And this is Miles's quintet with Jimmy Cobb, Paul Chambers, Wynton Kelly, Hank Mobley, plus the Gil Evans Orchestra. And you can even hear the famous So What intro that usually Bill Evans and Paul Chambers played on the original recording, Kind of Blue. Gil orchestrated this for the orchestra, and then the quintet goes off on their little tangent. Also great is Spring Is Here. Maybe my favorite track on this one is Spring Is Here, which is I think transcribed directly parts of it from the Bill Evans recording from, I think, Portrait of Jazz. So if you compare these two versions, that's a nice little side note there, I think. Great live recording. Jazz at the Plaza with the Kind of Blue sextet of Miles. All the members of the Kind of Blue band are on this one, and again, this is a nice something to listen to after if you listen to Kind of Blue and then hearing the band live. We'll also get to another live recording after this. And my favorite track on this one is My Funny Valentine. I think Miles only plays this in quartet, I think. And the interplay between Miles and Bill Evans, Paul Chambers and Jimmy Cobb is pretty outstanding. And it's one of my favorite My Funny Valentine versions of this one. Again, the Kind of Blue band live at Newport, 58. So that's 1 year before they recorded Kind of Blue. And you can hear really the band on fire. Just listen to two bass hit from this one, where Coltrane is the only improviser. And the way that the band comes behind him, and then there's a little moment where they have these really special hits that really push Coltrane as if he needed it, but it really pushes Coltrane to even higher heights. And this is a great recording of the Kind of Blue band live. On the corner, I remember my father showing me the LP of this, and I often have an earworm of one of the pieces which goes That's one of my favorite. Maybe that's Black Satin or something. I talked to Eddie Henderson about this, the fact that a lot of the, a big portion of the M1 Dishi band ended up on this record. So you have Herbie, you have Benny Maupin, and you have Billy Hart, who plays together with Jack DeJohnette. And also interesting is the influence of Paul Buckmaster on this recording. And also I talked to Dave Liebman about the time when he recorded this album. Everybody was wearing headphones, and Dave Liebman was supposed to play his solo, and he didn't have headphones, so he didn't really hear much of the other band. And Miles just told him, yeah, just play, it'll be fine. So that always rang in my head, that sometimes we obsess over, I need to hear everything, I need to hear everybody. Sometimes you just need the energy or the presence of somebody to be there for you to be inspired or for you to just play. And I thought there was a cool little side note on this recording. This is a special album, I really like it, and has a great energy. And Chicoria is also on this as well. I think Michael Henderson on bass. Maybe even Wayne on some of the tunes. This is made up of different sessions. We actually listening to this one right now. One of my favorite tracks from here is great. What is it? No, Recollections, which is sort of like a reworking of In a Silent Way. You can hear echoes of In a Silent Way on this one. And another one of my favorites is Lonely Fire. And this is all kind of, this is where Bitches Brew and On the Corner kind of overlap. And this came out after the fact, so that wasn't really meant as an album, I think, in the time. It was recorded in the early 70s, like 70, 71, maybe even 72, some of the tracks. But it was released 74 when Miles was already in a different kind of zone. He just recorded so much during a certain time that there was so much material that his label could just release. And I think this is the same person who drew the On the Corner cover and maybe even the Bitches Brew cover as well, and the Water Babies cover. It's hard to say, but this is actually, a lot of people don't like this album so much or think it's unfinished or, isn't as representative. I think Miles also didn't like it so much because it was unfinished and it was released as an unfinished thing. But it was actually the last real official album by Miles and Gil Evans, and Tio Macero put this out. And after that, Miles stopped talking to him for a couple of years and didn't work with Tio Macero anymore. And this was, I think, 62, in a transitional period of Miles where, the remnants of his kind of blues sextet and quintet kind of faded away. Everybody went away. He didn't really have a band so much. And so he did another attempt at, bigger ensemble things with Gil Evans. And I just love this album. I think there are colors on this album which you don't hear on all the other Gil Evans, Miles Davis albums that I love, But the colors, just for certain moments, this is a standout for me. Quiet Nights, Wait Till You See Her, Song 1, Song number 2, Corcovado, which is quite nice, Nights. I just love this. And especially for this CD version, they put rehearsal takes of Time of the Barracudas, the music that Miles and Gil wrote for a theater production that the quintet with, I think, Wayne. Wayne wasn't on this, but with Herbie and Ron and Tony, that they did on the West Coast in '63, I think. And I really love this as well. You can hear some Inventions and Dimensions vibes from Herbie on this one, and some great orchestral sounds from Gil. So this is a special one, as I said, very, very important one for me. Ooh, the energy on this one is super intense. I love this. This is Black Beauty. I have a couple of records from Miles in various formats from his time at the Fillmore. I don't know if this is the Fillmore West. There's also the Fillmore East. And this is the band with Chicoria, Dave Holland, Jack DeJohnette, Wayne Shorter, and maybe even Ayrton. Ayrton Moreira is also in this one. This is a special kind of energy, very raw. And one of my favorite tracks is Willie Nelson on this one. Willie Nelson, 1970. This is kind of a childhood memory for me to pick up this CD, or maybe even, yeah, my parents had this as a LP. I just love the cover, you know, Miles looking like a gangster on this one. And it has John Scofield, John McLaughlin, and they play the famous Time After Time and Michael Jackson's Human Nature. A lot of great moments on this one, and also they play this. This is something that they played in the 70s, beginning of the 70s, during the Jack Johnson time, maybe even on the Jack Johnson album. But Miles revisits this on this CD, on the opening track, One Phone Call, Street Scenes. Very cool. Ooh, the Quintet. Whoops. The Quintet, but instead of George Coleman or Wayne Shorter, we have Sam Rivers. And during a brief period in '64, he stepped into the Quintet after George Coleman left, and really inspired and influenced the sound of this band. And I think Tony Williams really vouched for him to be in this band, and you can hear Tony and the rhythm section having a ball with Sam Rivers and the influences that he has on the music. My Funny Valentine, this version might be even more closer to my heart than the famous My Funny Valentine version from My Funny Valentine live at the I think Lincoln Center. Yeah, there's something about this My Funny Valentine version. There are also like unofficial bootlegs from this tour which give another nice glimpse on what the band was doing in that time. But yeah, this is a great album. I think the bass drops out on the first tune, If I Were a Bell, in the first couple of moments. What else? All of You. Great album. Great little version of that famous quintet. Miles' first album for Columbia, around about midnight. I think back in the day I learned by Blackbird introduction by Red Garland. This is the quintet with Red Garland, Paul Chambers, Philly Joe Jones, John Coltrane and Miles. What can I say? I love Alucha. I love Round Midnight. Coltrane's solo on this one is incredible. And also just the fact that Miles, while he was recording this, was also recording all these great prestige albums to fulfill his last demands from the prestige contract. I just read something about that where the prestige albums were done in like super long sessions where he just recorded tune after tune with just one take, and then they made all these different albums out of that, you know, Relaxing, Cooking, Walking and Working. But this one was more, you know, the Columbia Records studio vibe, where they were like recording multiple takes and trying to find the best version and stuff. So this was kind of a different approach than the prestige marathon sessions. Incredible album, of course, 7 Steps to Heaven. And I have to say, you know, these were the first times, this was the first time when Herbie, Ron and Tony played together with Miles and joined the quintet. And you can still hear how they're kind of trying to feel out their place in the music, trying to find their own approach, but still, you know, having the influence of the previous bands really in their mind. on their mind. And I have to say, you know, this is kind of, they recorded half an album, and then they also spliced together previous sessions that Miles did together with Victor Feldman, who I really, really love, and whose harmonic vision and touch was really an influence on me. Ron Carter and Frank Butler on drums, and George Coleman. George Coleman plays on both spectrums, so that's interesting to hear. And but I love both aspects of this album, and I think this is an album where you can really hear the Shirley Horn influence on Miles, especially when it comes to the choice of songs, but also the choice of tempos, like Baby Won't You Please Come Home to Me or Basin Street Blues are like super slow, and Shirley Horn was famous for that. Classic album, of course. We have some things to do. We have a lot of albums ahead of us. Let's see how far I can get today. He Loved Him Madly is my favorite track from Get Up With It. A special album from Miles from, I think, what is it, 73 or something? 74. He Loved Him Madly was his famous tribute to Duke Ellington, who had just passed away, and Miles kind of gathered his band in the studio. And you can hear I think this was also recorded at 30th Street Columbia Studio Record Studio. I think so. Yeah, you can really hear the room in there. But this is also made up of earlier recordings where Miles recorded something in 1970 and 1972, but the album is really from 74, of course this great tribute to Duke, who, I didn't know this, but I just read this, Duke actually asked Miles to join his orchestra, and I think this was before kind of Miles started out with his own thing, or maybe he had just started with his own thing. But just the thought of that, you know, imagine Duke's colors, Billy Strayhorn's colors, together with Miles' sound. But you can hear Miles' love for Duke Ellington. To be honest, when it came out, or not when it came out, but when I first heard it, I didn't really hear the connection. But when I grew older, I kind of got more into it and heard the connection between Duke Ellington and Miles. Miles in Europe, great album, one of the first recordings of the Quintet with Herbie, Ron, Tony, and George Coleman. George Coleman, as he is announced here. The Autumn Leaves version, I Thought About You. I played along to this album a lot, and maybe even transcribed a few things here and there from solos. Miles in Berlin, I absolutely adore this record, especially the Autumn Leaves version on this one, where they hang out on that D pedal during Wayne Shorter's solo for super long time. And you can really hear a band working together on this one. Also Stellar, which is a bonus track from this CD, is an incredible version. The Milestones, super fast version, and I love the energy on this one. And this was the first European tour where Wayne joined the quartet. 58 Sessions, again the Kind of Blue band, before there was Kind of Blue, but it's all members from that group, playing standards, mostly like Stella Where Starlight, great version of Love for Sale, on Green Dolphin Street, classic recording, and Miles's beautiful composition Friend Dance that he wrote for his wife at that time, Frances. What else? Oh, My Funny Valentine. And yeah, I really love the Stella version on this one. And on Green Dolphin Street also. Like, I played along to this version a lot. Milestones, I love this album, but I haven't actually listened to it so much. There are certain songs on there that are important to me, but this isn't one of my absolute favorite albums of Miles. I mean, I love it, of course, but it's one that I haven't listened to as much. Great sound, great vibe, almost the kind of blue band. This has Red Garland instead of Bill Evans or Wynton Kelly, and Philly Joe Jones instead of Jimmy Cobb. Sorcerer, what can I say? This is really, you know, how I love the quintet to sound. I mean, what can I say which hasn't been said? Of course, I listened to this album so much, and my understanding of it grew in the years. I remember my father showing me this album. I love the cover of this one. Also, when we get to, where is it? Also love this, where is it? I love this thing, you see, where those two covers actually in a way belong together. Cicely Tyson and Miles looking at each other. And also these two albums to me kind of belong together. I'm not 100% sure of the timeline. I mean, I know both of them were recorded in 67, but most of it 67. But I don't know which one was first, or if also things came from the same recording sessions. But I love the Wayne songs on this one here on Sorcerer. The Wayne, like the fact that there's so much other compositions than not just Miles. Although on none of these two albums there is a Miles composition, I think. It's either Wayne's songs or Herbie's songs. And here's another song by Tony Williams, Pee Wee, which Miles doesn't play on. Which is interesting to hear Pee Wee, which in a way is a Wayne Shorter quartet. You know, sometimes I think about these little perspectives on how to listen to the music. You know, because I always listen to, until I first realized this, I always listen to Pee Wee as the Miles Quintet playing a song and Miles laying out. But if you listen to it as a Tony Williams quartet or as a Wayne Shorter quartet, that sometimes does something to my perception of the music. Yeah, this is really the quintet at their best, I think. I recorded Hand Jive. I recorded Nefertiti live at the Loft. I recorded Pinocchio and Fall also. Pinocchio with Jonas Burgwinkel on his album. The Sorcerer, there's of course the great later version by Herbie on the Directions in Music album, which is incredible. Limbo is a special song also. I wish they would have played those tunes live also and developed those in a live setting. Who knows what would have happened there. Porgy and Bess, deep album, deep sounds. The way that Gil is treating the material is, on the one hand, with a lot of respect for the original. So sometimes when I went back to listen to the Gershwin original musical, I was surprised because I knew this first. You know, this was my first entry to Porgy and Bess. But But you know, listening back to the original, I was amazed by how much original stuff, original source stuff from Gershwin is actually in there. But of course, what Gil did to certain harmonies and also through instrumentation, and then of course Miles' solos and in a way singing those melodies is incredible. Also, I realized later, very late, like that there's no real piano on here. Also on Miles Ahead, I think John Lewis is playing on some of the songs, but you can't really hear him, and it's really not about the piano. And I love this about these albums, because it's full of harmony, but there's no piano. Tribute to Jack Johnson, Miles' soundtrack to the movie about Jack Johnson, the boxer, which, yeah, I love this album. I used to listen to this, picking out this CD from the record collection of my parents. And later on, I read that great story of Herbie dropping by at Miles' studio recording session, where Miles was recording this with Steve Grossman, John McLaughlin, Billy Cobham, Michael Henderson. Did I forget somebody? No, I don't think so. So Herbie was on his way from picking up groceries and wanted to stop by at the studio to give Miles his latest recording, which was this one, Fat Albert Rotunda. So he wanted to give Miles his new LP. You know, Herbie wasn't with the band and with Miles anymore. This is 1970, I think. So 2 years have passed since Herbie, was it? Yeah, I think 70. So 2 years have passed since Herbie left the band. And he wanted to give his old boss his new record. And so he stops by and looks at Miles, sees Miles through the window or something of the control room. And Miles just points at an organ that Herbie had never played before, points at that organ and says, "You play." You know, they were already playing. And it's so great, that moment. You can hear it on the record, that Herbie kind of jumps in and tests out this organ and then goes into this incredible solo. So the band was already playing, and Herbie comes in, plays an instrument that he hasn't played before, and just improvises and listens to whatever is happening around him. And that's a standout moment for me, Herbie and Miles together. And also, yeah, just the combination of people is pretty special. Billy Cobham and Herbie and John McLaughlin, you know, Herbie and Steve Grossman. Interesting. Speaking of Herbie, this is one of Herbie's absolute favorite albums, and it became one of my absolute favorite albums. This is actually also an album through which I understood, or thought that I understood, Herbie's sense of harmony, and especially Herbie's admiration of Gil Evans a little better. Miles Ahead, also interesting in the sense that it all goes through without interruption. That each song is linked, like in a classical piece. Although there's no real pause, there's always one note that overlaps between the one song to the next. And that's an interesting thing to witness and to really take in that album as a whole, as it was meant. I think this was Miles' second album for Columbia, and also like a few of the compositions are very interesting, like the Miles of Cadiz, which is a classical composition by, what's his name? There are a few classical pieces on this one. Yeah, Delib. And New Rumba by Ahmad Jamal is interesting because you can hear, if you go back to the first version of New Rumba from the Ahmad Jamal trio, without drums but with guitar and bass, Miles actually transcribed, or Gil actually transcribed a lot of the guitar solos and Ahmad's solos, and incorporated them into the arrangements. So that's something to connect and to compare. Blues for Pablo is a nice song, interesting. Gil Evans composition. Absolutely love this album, Miles Ahead. Someday My Prince Will Come, epic and iconic version of this beautiful song from the Disney movie. And I think this was a similar thing where Coltrane stopped by at the studio. Well, he wasn't with Miles anymore, but he stopped by in the studio and was asked to play on Someday My Prince Will Come. And I think you can even hear it on the recording, like Miles plays the melody, then there's a couple of solos, and then Miles plays the melody again, and then there's another tenor solo after Hank Mobley has already played, and that's Coltrane. I hope I'm correct with the order of things, but this is how I remember it. Dread Dog is an interesting composition. I transcribed this one, and you can find the sheet on the Patreon also. Tio is interesting also. Coltrane is on fire on that one. I Thought About You. This is a record which I played along to also a lot. And Hank Mobley's solo was really helpful for me to be able to get through changes. Hank Mobley showed me a lot through his great solo on Someday My Prince Will Come. Water Babies, one of my favorite Miles albums, came out in 1976 and is made up out of two different sessions and personnel, maybe even more sessions, but two different personnel. The first is three tracks is the Quintet with Wayne, Herbie, Ron, and Tony, playing three beautiful Wayne compositions. Water Babies, the title track, inspired by Wayne's favorite book, Water Babies, by Charles Kingsley, and Sweet Pea, sometimes also called Sweet Pea, dedicated to Billy Strayhorn, and a beautiful ballad. And what else? What is the... Oh, Capricorn. Capricorn is beautiful. I will attach a sheet to this post. I hope I can remember it. But I found Wayne's original chart for Miles with the melody in B flat and the chords in C. And I made a sheet out of this with everything in C, so everything in concert. And then you can compare the version of Capricorn that Wayne wrote, which apparently is the original version, and see how it differs from the take on this recording. But if you follow the changes, you can pretty much follow them. And I, at first when I heard this, I always thought that it was time no changes. And I think in a lot of moments where you might suspect or expect time no changes being played, so there's like, after the melody has been stated, there's no real chord form that they follow. Oftentimes I think they are actually trying to follow the chords. So yeah, look out for that. I'll attach my sheet to Capricorn and also Wayne's original sheet. You can check this out. And then the rest of this album is the Quintet with Dave Holland on bass and Herbie on electric pianos and on Rhodes, and Chick also playing Rhodes. And this is very cool to see and connect together with my favorite album of Miles, Killimanjaro, which is also made up out of these different combinations. So I'm going to talk about this one Next. Fidi Killimanjaro, I still remember when I bought it in Amsterdam. I was visiting a friend there who lived there and who studied there. It was around 2003, and I remember going to the shop and buying this one and continuously listening to it. Especially the first song, Frélon Brun, is something that I put on when I feel uninspired or if I feel like I've forgot what I love about music. This always reminds me. And why I also love this album so much is because it connects so many different things. Like it connects the quintet, which was on the brink of splitting up. It connects Miles' acoustic setting with the electric setting. There's no acoustic piano heard on this one, but it has acoustic bass by Dave Holland and electric bass by Ron Carter. So, and they kind of change seats sometimes. So one portion of the album is made up of the quintet with Ron, Herbie, Wayne and Tony, with Herbie playing the Rhodes and Ron Carter playing electric bass. And the other half is with Chick Corea playing some weird electric piano. I'm never really sure what it is, but it's no Rhodes, and Dave Holland playing acoustic bass. So that's, I think, 68. It was recorded 68, I think. Yeah, exactly. Recorded 68, and it's an interesting phase where there is a lot of records, but not so many live recordings. I only have like 1 or 2 bootlegs from that time, and I wish there would be more because I'm very interested in this transitional phase where like Herbie comes out of the quintet and Jack Jeanette steps in, and there were times of a lot of people subbing on bass during that time, Miroslav Vitus being one. So there's a lot of things that I'm interested in. Also, like one of my favorite aspects about this album is something that isn't credited as much, but I think at last it's pretty well known that Gil Evans had a big impact on this album, and I was even present at the recording sessions and also wrote out a few of the charts. Like I have Gil's handwritten chart for the first track, Frélon Brun, and you can see him writing out. He wrote out charts for everybody in the band. So there's on the front of the page it says Herb, and it says Ron, and it says Tony and stuff. So everybody had their own different sheets, and out of that I made another sheet just to be able to play this with people because I love that song so much. I think I almost transcribed every song on this one throughout various stages of my transcription career. So when I look at older transcription of this, I cannot doubt a couple of my choices or assumptions, but that's always how it is, you know, your ear is evolving. But yeah, this connects my love for Miles and Gil's collaboration. It also has the quintet, and it also has that transitional period, and also has Chick and Dave, and you know, and just Tony is on fire. And I think Tony listened to Cold Sweat by James Brown before playing on Frélon Brun in the studio. And there's a lot of things in this album that are important to me and still mysterious. Whenever I listen to it, I find out new things. And yeah, my favorite Miles. Also something that came out after the fact. I think it was released in the 80s or something. Interesting mix of things, directions. Came out during the time when Miles had his hiatus and didn't play. So there's music from different periods of his recording career at Columbia. You have things by Gil Evans and Miles, Song of Our Country, which sort of belongs to the Sketches of Spain era. There's things by from the 7 Steps to Heaven period with Victor Feldman and Frank Butler and Ron Carter and George Coleman. There's things from that transitional period that I just talked about, interesting songs like Fun and Water on the Pond and Directions, which has Jack DeJohnette on drums. And I think Herbie and Joe Zawinul and, you know, something from that more in a silent way vibe. And this is pretty interesting, and I recommend checking this one out. It also has a song called Ascent that is very important to me. I also had a song named and an album named after that. I love that one. I could actually put this on because it's a nice thing in the background. Right now, actually, we're listening to Guinevere. I talked about this in the previous Pablo's Picks episode, the Crosby, Stills and Nash tune Guinevere that Miles played during one of the Bitches Brew recording sessions, and it ended up as a bonus track. All right. It also has the Willie Nelson. Remember, I talked about Willie Nelson at the Black Beauty, the Fillmore West. It's also on this one. Ooh, E.S.P. Beautiful album. I think Miles said to the band, because almost everybody contributes songs for this one. Ron Carter wrote 81 and RJ. Wayne wrote E.S.P. and Iris and what else? I don't know. Iris and E.S.P. by Wayne. And Herbie wrote Little One. And Miles wrote Agitation. Classic piece, I love that one. Especially also the drum intro. And I'm never really sure what was on the page, you know? Because that's a song that I associate more like with, it's more than a gesture than an actual, you know, through composed song. More like, let's do something like this. And so it's always somehow different on recordings. I mean, in the end, these are improvisers. But I would love to see the first sheet for Agitation. And I think Miles told the band members, give me letters and numbers. And if you look at the titles, you can see that most of them did, you know. Wayne, E.S.P, letters. And Iris, well, not so much. RJ, letters. Little One, Herbie, numbers. 81, numbers. And this was the first studio album by the new Miles Davis Quintet, which had been touring for a year up until that point. And I think it was recorded in 65 and released in 65. And I'm not sure, but this still wasn't, I think it was, yeah, it wasn't produced by Tio Macero, because Miles was still not talking to him. Remember, we talked about where is it? Quiet Nights, the album with Gil Evans that Tio Macero put out. Also because it was rushed to put out because there was a general, how do you say, trend of going towards the Brazilian kind of playing with Stan Getz's release of this album, you know, or even earlier albums. And some of the songs have that Brazilian kind of flavor to it, and they even play one of Jobim's in there, like Corcovado. And yeah, it was just released too early. Anyways, E.S.P. was produced by Irving Townsend, the guy who produced Kind of Blue. And I think after this album, when they recorded Miles Smiles, which is the next album by the Quintet, which somehow I don't have on CD. I think it's at my parents' place, but I have an LP of it. Miles Smiles was the next album in line, like studio album in line, produced by Tio Macero. Cookin at the Blackhawk. It's funny that Miles put out another Cookin after releasing Cookin with the Miles Davis Quintet in the 50s on Prestige. But this was recorded at the Plug Nickel. Of course, there's the famous box set, which I also have down there, which is some of my favorite music ever recorded. I still study these live recordings and learn a lot by observing what the guys are doing and how they treat form, songs, improvisation, harmony, interaction, rhythm, everything, melody. And I think this is also the first CD that opens up the box set. But this was later also released as, I mean, at first there wasn't the box set, there was just this album. It came out in the 80s maybe. And it's always funny that they, you know, you see this? The fourth song is Miles, but it's Milestones. Well, who cares? Star People, great album from the 80s. I'm not sure who's playing on that, but let me see. Maybe it's Marcus Miller. One of the later, oh cool, a liner notes by Leonard Feather. Yeah, it's Marcus Miller, John Scofield, Mike Stern, Al Foster. I just love that Al played in, you know, with Miles from I think 73 or 72 until his hiatus, and then he returned when Miles was back. So Al Foster is somebody who bridges two different time periods in Miles's life, and just to think of Al Foster being the same guy who played trio for so long with Joe Henderson, and you know, playing this kind of groove-oriented music with Miles, I always loved that fact. Miles in the Sky, the last, I think, official Quintet album, which was just the Quintet, before we get into Fidi Killimanjaro and all the other things that we talked about. This was released in 68, recorded in still maybe 67, and it's the first album where Herbie played the Fender Rose piano. There's the famous story of him going to the studio and Miles asking him, or telling him basically, to just play this, because Herbie didn't really see a piano set up for him. My favorite track on this is Black Comedy and Paraphernalia, which also has George Benson, right? I think it's George Benson. Let me see. For my first album, we actually recorded Paraphernalia also, but we didn't put it out, didn't make it onto the record. But Paraphernalia, Black Comedy, great Tony Williams composition with lots of different time switches. I love that one. Yeah, great album. Ooh, Desert Island Disc, complete concert, which has My Funny Valentine and Four and More. I always found it funny that they, I mean, I love it, but it's that they put like, okay, let's put all the fast songs on one record and let's all the slower songs on another record, with one exception. So My Funny Valentine has a faster piece, which I think is There's No Greater Love. No, sorry, that's one of the slower pieces of the Four and More, so the fast record. The only slower piece is There's No Greater Love, and there's a faster piece on the ballad section, which is all blues. Beautiful, I love the sound, I love everything about this album. Miles famously told the band right before they went on stage that they wouldn't get paid for this because it was a fundraiser or something, like, or a charity concert, and the band was pretty angry about that fact, because they didn't, excuse me, they didn't know about that fact, so they were pretty angry, and you can hear that anger channeled in a very, very creative and beautiful way, how they dealt with each other. If you, especially on the ballads, pay attention to how often Tony drops out and doesn't play, which is beautiful. Like, there's a beautiful stop and go relationship with the whole trio behind Miles and George Coleman, where you don't have to play all the time, you can just drop out. And let the others take care of things and also enjoy that space. So that's something to pay attention to. Like, of course, the harmonic relationship between Herbie and Ron, what they do to these songs, the way they find different harmonies for Stella by Starlight, My Funny Valentine, is very much also influenced by Shirley Horn, like Herbie's intro to My Funny Valentine or Stella by Starlight. But also Chris Anderson, somebody who Herbie studied with. So yeah, can't say enough about this album. I remember one of my teachers showing me this album and saying this is a desert island disc and I should study it and listen to it for many times. And I think I have listened to this, well, maybe 200 times or something, maybe more. I always listen to this, always return to it. That's a cool album because it has Miles with Sonny Rollins and Charlie Parker. Charlie Parker is credited as Charlie Chan on tenor. He's playing tenor, and together with Sonny Rollins, and that's a very cool thing to check out. Round Midnight, early version of this. Serpent's Tooth is a cool song, and also I love Arthur Taylor on this one, although he also shares the drum chair with Philly Joe Jones. This is a cool album. The Man with the Horn. There's a ballad with somebody singing on this. Maybe The Man with the Horn. Yeah. And this is maybe the first album that Miles did when he returned to the scene. Yeah, exactly. Was also co-produced by his nephew, I think. Some of it. And they recorded this. Where did they record this? Let me see. Recorded and mixed at CBS. Yeah, I think that's still the famous studio where they recorded Kind of Blue. That's sometimes, you know, to listen to something with the perspective of, okay, they recorded it at this... What? At the same studio as another record, you know, gives you another perspective on the music. This is similar to what was it? Directions, a compilation brought out by, released by Columbia Records in the time when Miles wasn't playing so much. I think this was also this also came out in the 80s or something. Yeah, 79, I think. And it brings together again music from different periods with unreleased material. Up until that point, it wasn't released yet. So you have, you have things from the 58 sessions. So Love for Sale is from there, you know. You have Circle in the Round, an incredible, cool 6/8 song recorded with the Quintet, plus, with Wayne, Herbie, Ron, and Tony, but also a guitarist. What's his name again? Joe Beck. Joe Beck plays guitar on this one. Then you have a cool song which I recently shared on the Patreon, Tio's Back, which is also called The Collector, a song by Herbie, and I love that. That's one of my favorite Quintet recordings. So you have some things from the Quintet as well. Sidecar is another cool song. Sanctuary, Guinevere. I mean, beautiful album. Live at the Blackhawk. I still remember buying this in a CD shop and listened to it quite a lot. The album has a little bit, I loved it, but it has a little bit of a, don't listen to it so much anymore, since I talked to Bill Stewart about this, where he said he didn't play along with this one because the tempo slowed down a little bit. Although still great music is being played, but also like I think this was one of the last times when Hank Mobley played with Miles and his quintet, because Miles said some not so nice things about Hank Mobley and how he didn't like his playing. I mean, it's hard to follow Coltrane, but I love Hank Mobley, and it's also cool to see what the songs they are playing, and I like the sound of the Blackhawk. Yeah, so here's another recording. I don't know how many versions I have of this, but this is live at the Fillmore East with Wayne and the electric quintet with Chicoria, Dave Holland, Jack DeJohnette. And I think this is also, Agharta is also playing on this one. This is the Fillmore East. We were talking about the Fillmore West before, Black Beauty, maybe you remember, many minutes ago. They play the material from Brew, and it's pretty free whenever Miles is not playing. When Miles is playing, it's more groove oriented. The energy, of course, is incredible, and great album. Amandla. This is a later in the 80s album that Miles put out on Warner Brothers, and one of my favorite songs on here is the tribute of Marcus Miller to Jaco Pastorius, which is called Mr. Pastorius. It's the final track on this one, and this is very cool. Agharta. I don't know this one so well, but I love the cover. I have maybe listened to it twice many years ago, but they play something from Jack Johnson. Look at this. The cover is incredible. And I think this is maybe the last concert that Miles played before he went into his hiatus. Yeah, exactly. So with Michael Henderson on bass, Pete Cozy. Actually, we're listening to Ascent, the great song of Miles it's a composition by Joe Zawinul, and you can find it on the In a Silent Way sessions. And I just love the way, that mood when Wayne comes in for a solo. Mtume and Reggie Lucas on guitar, Pete Cozy on guitar, and Al Foster. And Sonny Fortune. I need to go back to this one. This is cool. This is Miles live at Newport Jazz Festival, playing the material from Brew, and Wayne isn't on the album. Wayne was stuck in traffic and couldn't make it, so Miles had to go on in quartet, and that's very cool to hear. Like in that time when, as I told you before, like whenever the band played, whenever Miles didn't play, it became quite kind of wild and free, and so here he has more time to shine and time to also dig into this world that they are playing behind him. Very cool. Some more live at the Fillmore East, and I think I'm not sure, but I think these go together, and this was released before and this was released afterwards, and this is heavily edited. Miles coming out of the Brew experience, and Tio Macero really having a great time editing. So you can hear lots of this is a live recording with Steve Grossman. So I'm sorry, I'm talking bullshit. This is with Wayne, Fillmore East, and this is with Steve Grossman, who played after Wayne in the group. But Tio Macero is heavily editing these live performances, which are incredible. It has, I think, is it already Keith and Chick together? I think so. For sure, it has Agharta, it has Jack DeJohnette, Dave Holland going back and forth from electric to acoustic bass. It has Keith Jarrett and Chicoria, the band that you could also hear at the Isle of Wight concert, 1970, but also there Steve Grossman wasn't in the band anymore. It was Gary Bartz already. So a lot of flux, things being in motion with Miles' personnel. But this is a great album, and my father had this on LP, and I just love this cover with all the photos, and I love the font and everything about this. There's an interesting song, The Mask. Interesting, pretty out there tune, which they play. I think Dave Holland plays acoustic on that one. Can't put this in there. Dark Magus, a later recording. Don't you like this photo? So who do we see? We see Badal Roy, we see M. Toomey, we see Dave Liebman, we see Pete Cozy, we see Miles, we see Michael Henderson. Who's this? Maybe Reggie Lucas or something? Second guitarist. And who's the guy on the organ or electric piano? I don't remember. This is a live concert at Carnegie Hall. Oh yeah, Dominique Gaumont plays guitar, Reggie Lucas plays guitar, Pete Cozy plays guitar, three guitars, and Al Foster plays drums, and Azar Lawrence, who's still around, plays tenor. Dave Liebman plays tenor and soprano. And there's nobody on piano, so okay. Haven't listened to this in a while, but this is coming out of the On the Corner vibe, and I think they play longer tunes that are maybe renamed, and they used to be something that we know from On the Corner, I think. Haven't listened to this in a while. Live Evil, one of my absolute favorite recordings. This is, look at this. Miles and Tio Masiro. Oh, this solo entrance of Miles on Ascent, playing a melody that could also be a new melody for the song. He had that gift. So the live portion of this album comes from live recordings at the Cellar Door, I think from 1970, I think, with Keith Jarrett, Michael Henderson, Jack DeJohnette still in the band, but on the brink of, maybe it's 72 or 71, I'm not sure. This moment. Keith Jarrett and Gary Bartz, and I just love the way that they handled this material. So the live things were from 1970, and then it's mixed up with studio recordings, and it has two of my all-time favorite ballads being played by Miles, two songs written by Hermeto Pascual. One is Little Church, and the other one is, what's the name? Nem Talvez, which Miles calls Sivat, which is Davis backwards. And great energy, great vibe, and also I love the way the live recordings go together with the studio recordings. And great artwork on one side, an incredible artwork on the other side as well. And I think this is the same person that did the Bitches Brew cover as well. Beautiful artwork. Live Evil. Of course, Live Evil. Evil is live backwards. So here's something that, which of course I love, but I also have mixed feelings about this. This is the Freedom Jazz Dance, and also other session reels from the Quintet. This is something that I had been dreaming about for a long time. Then, even before that, I got I had this through a friend. I had the recordings of the Miles rehearsing Freedom Jazz Dance. And this is something that was kind of kept secret and was passed around a little bit among people who knew about this. And it was something that, yeah, was like a treasure. And I had always hoped for more, you know. But the thing is, when this was officially released with session reels to other pieces, which are incredible to hear, it wasn't the same feeling for me anymore. You know, it's similar to the thing that happened to all of us. With at first we were chasing bootlegs and chasing CDs, buying CDs, and then everything kind of ends up on YouTube, and also sometimes it gets officially released, and it kind of loses that magic of the hunter-gatherer vibe of, I want to look for the next thing that I haven't heard yet, you know. Everything is out there now, and it kind of, I miss the times when stuff like this was secret, you know. Maybe you can relate. But of course, I listen to this a lot, and just the way that Miles leads the band is something that was highly, highly influential for me. And the way that they kind of, for them, it sometimes took a while for them to find the real vibe, but once they found it, then this became the track. And this is cool to see. This is a beautiful box set. We already talked about a couple of the albums that are already on here. These are all officially recorded appearances of Miles at Newport Jazz Festival, and also Newport Jazz Festival, which George Wein, the producer of the festival, then took the festival on the road and kind of promoted it as the Newport Jazz Festival in Europe. So you also have a few of these recordings here. You can see Miles with George here. And some of my standout tracks are Miles soloing on Round Midnight, and the way that Monk comes for him on the 55 appearance, which kind of transported Miles back into stardom, or maybe even really started his career, and also gave him a recording contract. Maybe I should put on something that is less involved. But we talked about this. This is Directions with Jack DeJohnette on drums. Let me find something else. So, yeah, as I said, Monk's comping on Around Midnight on this one, and how Miles plays that melody. Then there's, as said before, yesterday we talked about Coltrane solo on Two Bass Hit from the 58 performance at Newport. And then there's very cool things to compare, which is the quintet with Wayne, Herbie, Ron, Tony, and Miles playing there at 66 and 67. And I think there's even, you have one song that they play on both occasions, and you can see the evolution of the quintet, which is incredible. Then I love the Stella by Starlight version from 66. That's cool. Also, it's great to hear RJ being played live, and Seven Steps to Heaven. I love the sound on this one, and great box set. Also great liner notes by the great Ashley Kahn, who I will interview next week. Ashley also wrote the liner notes to this great box set. Miles Davis and John Coltrane, the final tour of John Coltrane. Again, this was around in more unofficial releases, and then Columbia released it as part of their bootleg series, which I always think, yeah, fine, but we kind of already had this. Maybe put out something else that we hadn't had before. But it's great to have this under the roof of Columbia, Miles recordings, Miles label, of course. And what I had at first was, I think we'll get to this later on, or maybe I can even talk about this. You know, this is that performance from Miles in Paris with Coltrane. Coltrane agreed to one last tour. Miles kind of talked him into it, although he wasn't part of the group anymore. but yeah, Miles talked him into one last tour, although Coltrane wanted to start on his own thing. And Coltrane is a bit angry, I think, or he's a bit, he wants to play other kinds of music at this point. And this makes for some great contrast and energy in his solos, and especially the Paris performance, you know, that I had at first on these recordings, especially on Listen to Bye Bye Blackbird. You hear the audience booing and screaming. Like there was a little bit of kind of a riot going on in the audience who couldn't take what Coltrane was up to, and he kind of tamed down a little bit in the further performances. You can hear this in Stockholm and in Copenhagen. He didn't play as on the edge as on the first opening night of the tour in Paris, but he does some incredible things, and he plays, you know, the greatest solos that you could think of, and the audience is booing, and he plays through it, and it's some of my favorite Coltrane, actually. Yeah. Again here, this came out as the first edition of the Bootleg series that Columbia put out, maybe to prevent the kind of bootleg scene a little bit from exchanging all this material and sometimes even releasing it on unofficial labels and stuff, and just saying, okay, this is the official bootleg series now from Miles. Fine, we had most of these things before, but it's nice that they put it out. And of course, Ashley Khan wrote great liner notes, and also they remastered it, so it sounds pretty great. And of course, this is the Quintet at their peak in a way, the final European tour, and incredible to hear this, and also great to see tunes like Riot and stuff coming in, Mascalero, things that we know from Sorcerer and from Nefertiti, from those albums ending up in the live repertoire, being mixed up with standards, you know. And one of my favorite bootlegs from that tour isn't on this album, but I love the one from Rotterdam. And Berlin is also great. Berlin isn't on here, and yeah, they did some more. They could have added some more. Sketches of Spain, one of my favorite albums of the, you know, of Miles. Just his sound. And I still remember, like, when I was studying, one of my friends, Menzel Mutzke, a great trumpet player, I told him, I don't like Sketches of Spain so much. I don't like the song. I don't like the, you know, I don't like it so much. And then he said, yeah, but listen to how Miles plays that melody. And that was the door that needed to be opened for me to be able to appreciate it, for, you know, from a different standpoint. And I absolutely, yeah, I'm very thankful to Menzel for showing me the way with saying something so simple, but giving me a different perspective in order to appreciate the music. And now I love it, of course. So we have to take in tips and recommendations like this from our friends, and sometimes we need like a new door into the material. Also, I mean, there's some classical pieces which is interesting to compare. They play a piece by Manuel de Falla. Which one is it? Maybe it's Will o' the Wisp or something. Which is interesting to. I just love this. Finding out how Gil and Miles treat the original material always does something to me. This came out a couple of years ago after being something that not podcasters, but bootleggers were chasing for a long time. The Rubberand sessions. It's cool that it's out now, but what I don't like about it, that it's kind of Frankensteined together with new artists from this time, you know. So you have Ledizi, you have Lala Hathaway, and I don't like that so much. Actually, I don't like it. You know, there's a great album by Miles, which I don't have in this collection, I think. It's still at my parents' place, which is his final album called Doo Bop, and where they kind of did an album. He was working on an album with some hip-hop artists, and they took things from the Rubberand sessions and put them, kind of refurbished them for Miles to play on, and now they're releasing some of this material, I think, on this album, and then but they had other people from now playing on that, which is weird, I think. This is a cool box set, Miles at the Fillmore. We talked about this before. This is 4 historic performances from Fillmore East and photos, never before seen photos. It also has some Fillmore West material. So I think this is a combination of the things that we talked about. Where is it? This and where is it? Come on. Anyways, you know what I was talking about. There's more material. I'm not such a fan of this artwork, but this is great because it also offers another perspective on, we were talking about this one. The heavy edited things are here now without editing and just straight how they played it. Again, cool, Columbia, that you're putting out bootlegs that most of us had before, but still, it's nice to have them. And there's one track on here which is interesting, especially from CDs 3, where I think they didn't have, they just couldn't bring a Fender Rhodes, which Chick was always playing during this tour, 69. And so you'll hear the material being played on the piano, which is very interesting. So they also bring back Nefertiti, and it's a very cool thing to compare, playing Mascalero, Paraphernalia, that's cool to hear. Also a very cool composition, this, check this out, this is interesting. Chick in the electric band playing acoustic. Yeah, maybe you know this album. It's pretty good. It's called Kind of Blue. I don't think I need to say anything about this, but I think there's a reason for many reasons for the popularity of this album, but also a reason why a lot of us who get into this music have to learn solos by Miles from this album at first. Also, there's a nice DVD on this particular release. This is the, I think, 50th anniversary edition or something. Is it? It has a nice documentary on Kind of Blue, and everybody's talking about the record. This also includes the 58 sessions on CD2. Bitches Brew. I still remember when my father showed me this album. I didn't like it. I couldn't understand it, but also it had a kind of a magic to it that I was drawn to. So I went back to it a couple of times and tried to listen to it, and then finally I got it, and I mean I was sucked into it, and can't say enough about this album. I often go back to it, especially Pharaoh's Dance is something that I really, really love. Also, I have Joe Zawinul's original chart or score for Pharaoh's Dance, and that's something to look at when you when you look at this sheet and then see how they treat it, it's very, very interesting. Also, I have rehearsal tapes from all of the songs on here, and that's incredible. That's something that they should put out, you know. Epic album. We Want Miles. Yeah, the thing that stands out for me on this one is just the fact that Al Foster is playing. You know, I love that. I love the way that Al Foster is playing on these things. I'm not sure, did this come out on Columbia? Yeah, I think so. It doesn't look like a Columbia album, I think. It looks like a, well, I don't know. I think this is the first recording that we have, official recording of Jean-Pierre, famous song. They even have it 2 times on this album. And of course, it's great that they play My Man's Gone Now, which we know from Porgy and Bess. So just the collision of 2 worlds in this song is just great. Okay, now we come to what we talked about before. Like, these are unofficial things that came out where we have the music that is put out on here. This is from the winter tour, Stockholm and Karlsruhe. And the Karlsruhe concert, which is also on here as a DVD, is something that I remember. I used to have a friend in Essen, and he was studying in Essen, and he had that concert on DVD or on a CD-ROM or something, you know. So this was pre-YouTube. This was pre-downloading something on the internet. He had that thing on a DVD, and I asked him, "Do you have this concert? I heard about this great concert in '67. Can you?" Because I only saw little excerpts in the. There's a great movie about Miles. This one. That's a great documentary. That's my favorite documentary on Miles. And it has some of that concert. And a friend of mine studying Essen told me that he has that concert. And I always asked him to bring it for me, and he always forgot. So I was chasing him and always asking, next time we have a session, because Essen and Hagen, where I grew up, is, it's different towns. You have to travel on the train to see each other. I always told him before, please bring the DVD. I need to see it. Can you borrow it to me? I think he never did, but I wound up finding the video somewhere. Cookin, great recording, of course. We talked about these before, the Prestige albums. Tune Up, interesting. Origin, great recording. Blues by 5, When Lights Are Low. This is incredible. Miles Davis All Stars. This is cool. Horace Silver, the way he comes for Miles. Percy Heath, Kenny Clark, that's a great rhythm section. Solar, of course. When you listen to this version, you'll know why this is a standard. And I want to listen to You Don't Know What Love Is again. Again, unofficial CD being released of a concert that we then later on got on, I think, this thing here, right? Oh no, sorry, on the on this one. Miles in Berlin, 69. There's also a great video of this out there. And yeah, great. This is a great thing that never came out on Columbia. The Monterey Jazz Festival has a great CD series of live recordings from the festival. And this is one of the first performances by the Quintet with George Coleman, Herbie, Ron, and Tony. And this is very cool. I want to go back to this album. Haven't listened to it in a while, but Stella, I remember Stella, it was great. I mean, all of that is great. September 20th, 1963. Ooh, this is even earlier, I think. Yeah, exactly. This is one of the first performances by the quintet. Miles Davis, a rare hometown appearance. So yeah, that's interesting because you have the quintet, what I talked about before, this time from June 1963, so even earlier than that. And also there is one trio track on there where Herbie plays with, I guess, a local rhythm section, Cleveland Eaton and Theodore Robinson playing Like Someone in Love. This is interesting. You hear some Chris Anderson vibes on Herbie. Herbie's playing on this one. Again, something that we had as digital bootlegs came out on CD. I just bought it because I always like to have physical things as opposed to just digital things. I remember buying this in Cologne many years ago. Miles, a club performance at the Blue Coronet with his electric quintet, also called the Lost Quintet, with Chick Corea, Wayne Shorter, Dave Holland, and Jack DeJohnette. And I think, yeah, Paraphernalia stands out. And this, again, I really like this. Interesting. I don't think the sound quality is as happening as the music is. What is this? I think this is also, it looks like another performance from, oh yeah, that's interesting. So, that's a cool bootleg from, the first one is a cool bootleg from Miles from the 67 tour in Paris, which later came out on this record, in this box set. 67 in Paris. No Blues stands out for me here, and Riot, and On Green Dolphin Street. And then you have two tracks from the Lost Quintet again, and then a great recording from Sindelfingen in southern Germany. Always when I drive by that little town, I think of this bootleg, 1964, Miles playing, I think, Oleo. Yeah, that's a great recording of Oleo with Wayne, the first tour with Wayne, first European tour with Wayne. Live in Copenhagen from the 64 tour. I think this just came out as another box set. Where is it though? This is this new box set by Miles that just came out from the 64. I mean, I don't know if that's on there, but again, 64 tour of the Miles Davis Quintet with Wayne and Herbie and Ron and Tony. Long unavailable. Joshua. Prestige, working with the Miles Davis Quintet. 4 stands out for me, and of course It Never Entered My Mind in A flat. I talked about this with Eddie Henderson on the podcast that we did. Half Nelson, also, I love that song. In Your Own Sweet Way, great. What is this? Conception. Miles Davis, Stan Getz, Jerry Mulligan, Lee Konitz, Sonny Rollins, Zoot Sims. Is this kind of a... Sounds like either like a... Yeah, sounds like a compilation. I don't know why I have this. And I don't know... So there's a song on there called So What? From 51 or 49. Let's see. Oh yeah, so it's basically just 2 tracks with Miles, with Miles's band, Conception and My Old Flame, which is actually from this recording, I think. No, it isn't. Talking bullshit. What is it? Where does it come from? I need to re-listen to this. It also has like Miles and Lee Konitz in a mix-up with Max Roach. I need to go back to this. I don't know enough about this. Here we have again the villa recording that we talked about before here in a different kind of setup, or maybe even sounds a little bit different, I don't know. Again, Miles Davis bootlegs came out on CDs. I'm sure nobody was paid for this. You know. Ooh, one of my favorites, Birth of the Cool. I love this. At first I thought it was all arranged by Gil Evans, which is not true. John Lewis also arranged a couple of my favorite tracks, and also Jerry Mulligan arranged a couple of my favorite tracks. And this is beautiful. I love this. Songs on here. I wish he would have played like songs like that a little bit longer, like Moon Dreams. Can we hear another Moon Dreams, please? Yeah, I love this. Special. This is interesting. A soundtrack that Miles did for a movie. It's produced by Marcus Miller, and it has Scofield on acoustic guitar. And Miles apparently told Scofield, "Now you have found your sound." Although my favorite Scofield album is Quiet, where he plays the acoustic guitar. So I don't know. And I think we're coming to the last CD. I have more bigger box sets that I will talk about when I get to my favorite box sets. But this is the CD section. I talked about this before. We were talking about Miles in Tokyo with Sam Rivers, and these are 2 additional performances of that tour, which give another great insight into how they dealt with the music as a band. It's great to hear, Sam Rivers playing over Stella by Starlight and other material that you don't hear on the Miles in Tokyo official album. The sound quality is pretty bad, but I recommend it. Check it out, it's great. Hey, I just realized I forgot to talk about Tutu. It wasn't in my CD collection at the moment because right before I did these videos for you, I was playing along to this record. Again, for this new or newer version of the record, Ashley Kahn wrote the liner notes. So I was reading the liner notes, listening to this album, then I thought I want to play along to it. Tutu is an important album for me as well. I love the compositions, most of the compositions by Marcus Miller. Sometimes I wonder how it would have sounded if more live instruments would have played or maybe acoustic instruments would have played the songs. Some things are timeless and some things are not timeless, I think. But the way that Miles flows over these songs, especially this one, I love Portia, I love Thomas, I love Tutu, is very special, I think. And I don't listen to it so often, but whenever I do, I'm in love with it. And I also love a little connection, like lineage connection of. So there are these recordings of Miles with Gil Evans, of course, that we all know. And Herbie was influenced by those recordings when he did I Have a Dream, Speak Like a Child. And Marcus Miller, when he did these recordings, listened a lot to Speak Like a Child. So there's a beautiful link of these different eras of Miles, and you can hear the Gil influence on this one as well. Hey, just finished talking about the CDs, but then I thought, let's do the box sets as well. So then we have everything. We also have the LPs that I have, and so on the corner is an incredible box sets, the great complete on the corner sessions. All of these great box sets are produced, I think mostly produced by the great and late Bob Belden, who always added beautiful liner notes, and I just love reading more about the sessions and what happened and what maybe inspirations behind certain titles are, and what went into recording these things. You have lineup for every song, and that's something that we kind of miss now with streaming. I just love this. You know, I put this on, and then I lie on my couch and read while I'm listening to that stuff. So the on the corner thing is incredible. Another box set that I don't have at my place right now is the one that I talked about before, the complete Cellar Door Sessions, a great box set also. Some of that material wound up on Live Evil, but when you have the complete box set, you get the whole picture of a couple of days at the Cellar Door Sessions. I mean, at the Cellar Door. This is a cool one, complete 7 Steps to Heaven, 7 Steps, the complete Columbia recordings of Miles Davis, 63 until 64. So we get the first kind of studio things from the quintet. But what I love most about this box is that it gives us the complete concert that I talked about before, like the complete concert from My Funny Valentine and 4 and More from 64, in the correct order of how the concert happened. Remember, we talked about 4 and More has mostly the fast pieces, and My Funny Valentine has mostly the ballads. Here you have the actual set list plus the opening track, which is incredible. Autumn Leaves, and how they play it. For me, that was like incredible moment when I found out there's an actual song that I haven't heard from this concert that I love so much. That's cool. You also have, of course, the other things with Sam Rivers, and you know, you have all of that in here again with liner notes and in-depth info about each session. It gives you these box sets. They give you a great idea about the chronology, like the order of events that happened behind these great recording sessions. So on the corner, 7 Steps, Bitches Brew. We are again listening to Recollections, the kind of echo piece to In a Silent Way. Yeah, I love this. I love this format also. It's almost like a book. And Michael Kuskuna also wrote liner notes, but Bob Belden also wrote some, and he always puts it into context, like where Miles was when he played live during that time, and what songs kind of were played live before they ended up in the studio, and then you can compare the live recordings to the studio recordings to see what actually maybe was important to Miles when he was in the studio to capture, you know? Beautiful. 4 CDs, and I think most of this material was also on the smaller Bitches Brew box set that I showed you before. This is cool. Me as a fan of Gil Evans, this is a special box. It gives you basically all the records that they did: Miles Ahead, Porgy and Bess, Sketches of Spain, and Quiet Nights, of course. We talked about that before. Plus lots of bonus tracks. But my all-time favorite thing of this box set is 4 takes of a piece that Miles recorded with Gil Evans Orchestra and the quintet with Herbie, Wayne, Ron and Tony in the studio, called Falling Water. And this is some of my favorite music ever, those 4 takes. And it kind of shows you like what could have been if they would have kept on working together as the quintet plus with the orchestra. And there is in few books and articles I've read about a concert in Berkeley, but not like, I think there's a Berkeley in Boston, but there's another Berkeley also in the West Coast maybe. But Miles played with the quintet and the Gil Evans Orchestra, and they played some of the orchestral pieces that Wayne also wrote, I think, for the quintet. and the orchestra, but also Gil Evans. So I think some of that was also performed live. But check out Falling Water. Falling Water, incredible, incredible. Now, one of my favorite box is this one. This is the music from like everything the quintet recorded, basically. Everything the quintet recorded in the studio. So you get a lot of different alternate takes. Also, you get everything from the records that we already have. Fine. But it also gives you things that weren't on record before, like the band rehearsing I Have a Dream is incredible to see that Herbie brought the song to the band. It didn't make it onto any record, and also the performance is still like they're looking for ways to play it. Miles kind of plays it in 3 at some point. And Speak Like a Child, they also did this, although it really sounds like they're like reading it through, trying to get it together. But it's very interesting to hear. There's the rehearsal take of Madness, which is so beautiful because you can see, I think Madness, which we know from Nefertiti, used to be a moody 3/4 piece, ballad-like, that could have fit also like on Herbie's Speak Like a Child maybe. And then if you compare the rehearsal take to what actually ended up on the album Nefertiti, you can see what Miles did to compositions. The alternate take from Pinocchio is interesting as well because they play it super slow. They play the song Thisness, which is interesting, just a bunch of chords that they're looping. And then, you know, stuff like we've heard on Circle in the Round and Directions, on those things that were put out during Miles's hiatus. Now we have everything at one place, and I really recommend this also. Again, beautiful liner notes as well, and just you can learn a lot. And the thing is, I bought these when they came out, and from time to time I just pick it out and read it like a book, and it reminds me of other things that I love about this quintet. This is a great box set as well. We were talking about Jack Johnson before, and here you get more recordings from that era with different personnel. A lot of tributes to boxers, yeah, it's great. Oh yeah, you also have the stuff from Live Evil, Nemum Talvez and Little Church. Go Ahead John, I think this is another tribute to John McLaughlin, where he kind of, you know, unleashes him on the band. It's interesting. An interesting song is also Conda, which is also just a sequence of chords. I transcribed that one, and Miles uses an octaver, but octaver down, I think. It's very cool. And then this box set, I really, really love this, because In a Silent Way is also like one of my absolute favorite Miles records. I used to pick it out from my parents' record collection because I was so drawn to this cover. And here, let me lower the volume of the music. And here you get all the things that went on in the studio around that time. So you also have, you know, you have all the material from Fili Killimanjaro and some of the Water Babies things. But then you have everything where kind of Miles utilized a lot of Joe Zawinul's ideas and thoughts, and also him as a player and as a composer in this studio session. So you get tunes like Ascent that we talked about before. You get stuff like Directions, but also what I really love is Early Minor, a great composition. Things that then later on were played by Weather Report also. And of course, In a Silent Way, epic recording, epic thing. But if you listen to this box set, there's a great version of Shh, Peaceful, what wound up on the In a Silent Way album. But it's not like you know it, because Peaceful was heavily edited for the final release by Tio Macero. So there's a lot of loops and a lot of sections that come and go. And on the complete version that you can find here of the recording sessions, it's a whole song that we haven't heard before. Like they only used certain portions for the actual release, and the whole thing is a song that is almost hard to connect it to what we know from the record so well. So that's something to check out. And also I recommend checking out Rehearsal Take of In a Silent Way, where it's more like the version that you might know from the Joe Zawinul album, which to me in a way it's also the definitive In a Silent Way version. And here you can hear the band rehearsing it, and it still has all the chords, and it has time. They're playing it in time, and it's beautiful how to hear, especially for me, like hearing my three heroes like Herbie, Joe Zawinul, and Chick playing harmony at the same time, and in a way they're not getting in each other's way, but also like they're fully getting in each other's way, and it creates this beautiful mixture of sounds and colors that are super rich and interesting. And then you have John McLaughlin on top. Beautiful. Ghetto Walk was something that we've been listening to a few minutes before, and yeah, beautiful. That's the box. No, there's some more. The Prestige albums. This is actually a box set that I bought pretty recently, and I don't think it's such a nice box set, but of course the records are great. You don't have any liner notes or additional info, you just have like all the records in a paper sleeve. And I just finished transcribing the bass, walking bass from Percy Heath on Back's Groove, the title track from this great album. Beautiful. Relaxing with Miles, maybe the Prestige album from that time that I listened to the most. My parents had this as at a different kind of CD. I love the songs. I transcribed some of Oleo's, Sonny Rollins, John Coltrane solo on Oleo, and tried to learn all the songs. Beautiful. Miles, yeah, that's a cool one. I think that's maybe the first one that they did with John Coltrane, I'm not sure. There's No Greater Love comes to mind, and Stablemates. Blue Haze, this is interesting. I really love the rhythm section with Art Blakey and Horace Silver and Percy Heath. 4, and also there's this interesting, and also with Kenny Clarke, like I'll Remember April. That's a great version. Somehow for a long time I had problems with that song, or I didn't really get a connection. This version from Blue Haze helped me with that song, so I can recommend that. And also 4 is incredible. It's cool. And there's one song where Charles Mingus is playing piano, Smooch. Of course, Cookin, My Funny Valentine. I think we talked about this yesterday. Working, It Never entered my mind. We talked about this yesterday. I mean, I did the video yesterday. Steamin', yeah, I forgot about that one. Salt Peanuts, I love that song. Well You Needn't, yes. Great. What's that? Oh, I don't know this one so well. Dr. Jekyll is something that ended up on Roundabout Midnight also. So that's an early version. Can't go wrong with Arthur Taylor and Miles together. That's just a killing combination. And Jackie McLean, yeah. I need to listen to this again. Also Ray Bryant, great piano player. Oh yeah, I love this album. What's the name of this album though? There's no name. What I love from this album, let's call it Miles Davis. Will You Still Be Mine? I just love that song so much, and this, especially this version. And also cool to see Miles in quartet with Red Garland, Oscar Pettiford and Philly Joe. Interesting combination. What's this? The Man I Love. I love that song and I love that version. I think this is with Milt Jackson, exactly. This is more things from the session, maybe. Is it from the same session as Beck's Groove? Because it's the same personnel. Let's see. Where is it? Yes, I think so. Yeah. Christmas 54. Great. Dig. I think this is with, oh yeah, super early Sonny Rollins and Jackie McLean together. This is very cool. Conception, the great George Shearing song, and It's Only a Paper Moon. Beautiful. I love this. Sonny Rollins and Jackie McLean together. Great. Collector's Items, we talked about this yesterday with Sonny Rollins and Charlie Parker together. Ooh, what's that one? Miles Davis and Horns. I need to revisit this. I haven't listened to this in a very, very long time. But this is very cool, but because you get Miles and Roy Haynes on a couple of tracks together. Yeah, I want to revisit this one. First time Miles played Walkin, I think, which we got to know. I got to know Walkin through the Miles Davis Quintet with Herbie, Wayne, Ron and Tony, like playing it super fast, and this is super slow. So if you want to learn this song, check this out first, and then you'll be able to play it faster later on. This is the last box set that I bought recently. Again, they put out bootlegs that were in circulation already, but it's nice to have them in nice CDs. But you can see that when you look at this thing, you can see that they put more work back in the day where there was more money involved, I guess, in the record business. So this is a little bit, the music is incredible, the box set isn't super interesting, has nice liner notes, but what I really liked was the Stellar version from disc 5. This was something that stood out for me. So Stellar from disc 5 was something that from 64 with Wayne, Herbie, Ron and Tony, Miles. That was a special version for me. And then one of my absolute favorite box sets, I talked about this before when we were talking about cooking at the Plug Nickel, and this is all the CDs from the stay at the Plug Nickel, where Miles famously was surprised by his band, who they were trying to play things that nobody expected of them. And Tony Williams went so far to call it anti-music. So the plan was to play something, because they kind of got stuck. They said that, I'm not saying that. They said that they kind of got stuck into a kind of a routine after playing. They were together with Wayne for a year, and then they wanted to try out new things. And one of my favorite tracks is When I Fall in Love. I think they play it twice, and I think it's from disc number 7. No, also Yesterdays. How they play Yesterdays is interesting, because that wasn't really a song that they played very often. When I Fall in Love from disc, this is disc number 6. That's an absolute favorite, and they do crazy things in Wayne's and Herbie's solo. I play along to this quite often. I always put it on when I feel uninspired, and when I'm about to play Geek with Standards, often put this on. I always find things in it. Also interesting, I think Wayne was listening to Warren Marsh during this time. You can hear this sometimes. I love the piano sound, although it's not a great piano probably, but the way that what Herbie gets out of it is incredible. Yeah, Miles was not really in great shape in '65 because he had a lot of operations and was recovering from hip surgery and didn't really play as much. Also the quintet sometimes ended up being a quartet, so they played without Miles, and there's the famous bootleg with Wayne and I think Gary Peacock and Tony Williams and Herbie playing at the Vanguard. Also, that's something that I wanted to hear, like Miles played at the Vanguard, but we don't have a Miles Davis live at the Village Vanguard record. How could this be? I think Columbia must have recorded something. Now let's get to the last section, which is the LPs. So I have a lot of Miles Davis LPs, but I'm not going to talk about the ones that we have talked about in CD format. So because I don't want to repeat myself. And but let's talk about the ones that I don't have as CD. So there's not many. Some of them were released quite recently, and this is one that is very close to Miles's death. I think 2 months after this he died. So that's from July '91, and it's with his final band with Kenny Garrett, Darren Johnson, Foley, and Richard Patterson and Ricky Wellman. I really love Ricky Wellman, and the way that he plays time and groove is something that always gets me. And this great LP with great liner notes by Ashley Kahn opens up with a great version with Hannibal. I really love the song Hannibal that Marcus Miller wrote, and that was originally released on Amandla. So they play a lot of that material, also some of the You're Under Arrest material like Time After Time and Human Nature. And this is a cool newer release with a little bit more work put in, like with great liner notes, and yeah, I can recommend this. Another cool new release is this one, this was put out by Warner Brothers, I think, because that comes from the time where Miles was with Warner Brothers, and this is still from Columbia. So you get some bootlegs from, you get some live recordings, I think. Or these are, yeah. And what really, there's a studio take from What's Love Got to Do with It. And I really recommend checking that out. There's really right up that alley of Miles playing Time After Time and Human Nature and stuff. So if you like that, go listen to What's Love Got to Do with It. And there's like a synth thing, a little synth melody that is played at the beginning that always gets me. Also, I love that sound. And I think there's some liner notes I remember reading something that John Scofield wrote about this. Where is it? Is there something about Sco? Because Sco is on this record. These are actually mostly, these are all studio recordings. Maybe there's only a quote of Sco, but I remember Sco somehow. And also I remember his playing on this. Again, they play something from Jack Johnson. That's the thing that I talked about before, that great riff, which is on the opening track of You're Under Arrest. Yeah, that's what happened. 82 until 85. Yeah, Miles, beautiful album. What can I say? I mean, this is one of the classic Quintet albums. This is an album where Tio Macero was back in the producer's chair after the long silence between him and Miles. It's interesting to play along with Orbits. I have a sheet of Wayne's version of Orbits, and it's interesting to try to follow the sheet while how they are playing it, because there's some, I never noticed this, but there's some odd meters in there also, and there are some changes that they are trying to follow, and it's incredible. Also Circle, a great composition that is based on Dread Dog, which you can find on Someday My Prince Will Come, and Miles kind of reassembled certain sections of Dread Dog, and out came this new and incredibly beautiful moment that is Circle. And Herbie later on then did on his album Directions in Music a similar thing, where he kind of took Stella by Starlight and did something new out of it, using that same approach. And this song is called Mystery. Footprints, of course. There are some things here which are nice to compare to other versions, like compare Wayne's Adam's Apple version of Footprints to this Footprints and what's happening here. Compare Freedom Jazz Dance from Miles Smiles from the Eddie Henderson recording with Ron Carter, Billy Higgins, Cedar Walton, and what's the trumpet player's name? I keep forgetting his name, but it's a great recording, and Ron Carter is on both of these, on both of these recordings, and they're super different, and that's interesting. Gingerbread Boy, what's a nice version to compare this to? I mean, all the live versions that we have of this, and here they're still trying to get together the melody, and it's very, very, I mean, I played along to this album, and I remember my father showing me this. I mean, there's so many memories attached to this one, and the sound, the energy, it's kind of raw. And again, listen to this as something that is recorded in the same studio as Kind of Blue. Just think of it, like in the same room, they do this very different kind of music. Miles Nelson. And we end with a very interesting and obscure album that Columbia put out. I don't know when they put this out, but this is a mixture of different recordings that didn't or came out on different albums on Columbia, and it has some of that thing, those things with Bob Dorough, the vocalist, where we all know this "Nothing Like You Has Ever Been Seen Before, Nothing Like You," that we have on Sorcerer. That weird choice that they put on the CD. This, what is it? It's a sextet. Miles with Frankie Rehag, Wayne Shorter, their first kind of moment together in '62. William Correa on bongos. Okay. Paul Chambers, Jimmy Cobb, and Bob Dorough vocals, arranged by Gil Evans. And you have two tracks from this session again here, Devil May Care and Blue Xmas. And then you have Sweet Sue and Bado, which we know from Roundabout Midnight. And then you have Jitterbug Waltz, Round Midnight, Wildman Blues, and Django from an album by Michel Legrand, where Miles is a soloist, which is incredible. I really recommend this. And then we get to a poem for brass. It's called Jazz Suite for Brass here, but it's actually Poem for Brass. And it's a great composition by J.J. Johnson, incredible orchestral sounds, and Miles is a soloist. This is an early recording from '56, and this is right when Miles signed to Columbia. He didn't release something of his own yet. He was still recording for Prestige, and meanwhile also recorded Roundabout Midnight, but it didn't come out yet. And this is very interesting. Poem for Brass. Check it out if you don't know it yet. What is Three Little Feelings? The final track is tuned by John Lewis, and it's from that same recording session, like Poem for Brass. So Facets. That's interesting. I don't know if this exists for streaming. but I bought this in a vinyl shop a long time ago. And I think that's it. We made it. Ooh. Thank you for watching this video and for being with me while I talk about my favorite albums. And if you're interested in more of this, I'm sharing the Pablo's Picks video series exclusively on my Patreon. So this is a free one for all of you. But usually I just go through my CD collection, pick out my favorites and talk about them. So if you're interested in that and lead sheets and educational videos and more behind the scenes insights into my podcast, consider joining me at Patreon. It will help me also to put out videos like this and to support my podcast, Pablo Head Investigates. Thank you again, and thanks to Miles Davis for all this great music. Bye-bye.